Bertman? Are you with those?
So Bertman, before you talk, thank you for Bertman's been running the Discord for 7 shows now behind the scenes. You've been killing it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everything you've been doing for the show, man. And also appreciate that article you wrote, which is a great article. Everyone's got to go find it on scnr.com. And yeah, so how did writing that article about Yiki change the way you looked at Oklahoma City bombing? Were you familiar with any of that beforehand?
What? Yeah, thanks, Shane, Alex. So I told Jose this. I basically had a very general understanding of the Oklahoma City bombing when I wrote the story. It's kind of like what he was saying. You know, he's like a year older than me, so we had the same perspective on it, like it happened, and then
Yeah.
9/11 kind of took over. That was like our big thing.
Yeah.
Watching when we were kids. So I really didn't know much about it. All I knew was that, oh yeah, some guy parked a truck, bomb went off, people died. That was about it. When he told me, I had seen him on Twitter, Jose, and he was going off about this guy Yiki. He didn't kill himself. It was a cover up, blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't know, this seems kind of above my head. I don't really know what's going on or who this person is. And one day we made contact with each other, and he started telling me a bit about the story when he told me he got in contact with Terry's wife, Tanya.
Yep.
And man, it was just like, as soon as he starts telling me, it's like you fall deeper into the rabbit hole, deeper into the rabbit hole, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? None of this makes sense. And then you look further into it, and you're like, hold on. The official narrative says X, Y, Z, but if you look over at what actual testimony says, and eyewitness is like, none of this adds up. How come we just brush this under the rug? And so I mean, basically with the Oklahoma City bombing, like, yeah, it's kind of made me realize, like, wow, some of this stuff actually does get covered up, and they paint narratives. And then I kind of like what you guys mentioned about, as soon as I started looking into the mysterious death of Yiki, and then there's other mysterious deaths that happened with the Oklahoma City bombing, I was like, man, when are all the interesting suicides that happened right after January 6th? When are those going to get exposed? Because those are red flags to me already.
Absolutely. It'll probably be a few years to 20 years, Yeah. It'll happen. That story will break open. We'll find out so many more things, even though there were certain things at the very beginning of that happening, or local stories or videos or people in the news, agitators, accelerationists, people dressed as MAGA types who weren't MAGA types, and it'll all come out eventually. But like most things, certain people who are paying close enough attention saw it right away. Are there any details in the story after you're done writing it that stick out with you and that you like, that kind of haunt you when it comes to that whole atrocity?
Honestly, just the scene
Of Yiki's death.
The blood. Yeah, the blood in the car. The fact that he was I think it was like half a mile away from his car. The way he was found, it was like,
yeah.
It just sends chills down your spine knowing that he had 2 kids, and I don't know, it was just like, didn't sit right with me. It just creeped me out.
Yeah, I think it was a smart choice to start with that scene because it's so underreported, obviously, and it's the same thing that a lot of corporate press types do when they talk about Oklahoma City or any other atrocity. If you go on YouTube and look up Oklahoma City, they'll show you, and rightly so, because all these innocent people died, but they'll give you like all these stories of these innocent people, and what we lost, what families lost, all the grieving, but then you're showing a very human aspect to an underreported part of this atrocity that's way darker, in my opinion, than what we're being told, and it brings people into the story, and like you and like Jose, kind of sends you down this rabbit hole where you start.
I mean, 168 dead and a leg. Got to know more about that leg.
Oh, and I don't think we even talked, like, there was a daycare there. Like, a lot of children died, right?
Children or something like that.
Like a lot of children died. It was horrible.
Jose knows a bit more about the overall Oklahoma City bombing story. My focus was basically on Yiki. Mm-hmm. That was my rabbit hole that I went down. And I mean, the reason that I opened with that story was that right away, so many red flags. Nothing adds up. You're telling me the guy slit his wrists. There's blood all over the car. He walked half a mile out. He shot himself in the head. It's like none of this makes sense, guys. And you just the neighboring I forget the county that it happened in.
Canada, Canada, or Canadian county or something.
They weren't the ones, yeah, Canadian county. They weren't the ones that responded. I understand that he was Oklahoma City Police Department, but the crime happened in their county. That just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I'm not a police officer. I don't understand how this stuff works, but just red flags all over the place, and then so many other rabbit holes that you fall down.
Can you remind me how they found his body? Do you know?
Oh, dude. So I think somebody came across the car, if I remember correct.
And that started like a search.
I could be getting this wrong. That probably started the search. I know he had been in contact. Yiki had been in contact with some of his family earlier in the day, and they were kind of worried about him. Yeah, it's the whole story's just tragic, man.
Yeah, it's super bizarre. It's so scary. Well, people need to read that story and go watch Jose's stuff. And Bertman, how can they find you on Twitter, whatever they call that place?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. I like yelling at people on Twitter at Man of Bert.
You're always yelling at people.
You
on
are
Twitter.
always yelling at people.
I love it.
I've only been on for 2 seconds, and I'm.
You need to yell at more people, Alex. You need to
I
gotta
gotta yell at more people.
What was that,
Bert?
Bert?
Yelling at people. I'll help you.
Yeah, he could be like your coach.
I don't want to get canceled.
Yeah, perfect. Well, did you have any spooky stories?
So I have one.
Let's hear it.
I guess it's not as entertaining as some of the other spooky stories, but
Get out of
we'll
our
be the
room.
judge. We'll be the judge of that, Bertman.
okay, all right. It's definitely one that I can't explain.
Okay.
So I've always kind of been agnostic about spirits and the paranormal. I don't necessarily not believe, but also I'm pretty quick to poke holes in people's stories when things just seem like they have a pretty reasonable explanation. So this was maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago now, back in Palmdale, California, my hometown. I was with my wife. We were dating back then. She was working a Parks and Recs job, and I just happened to visit, for the day. I was hanging out at her work. And so there's 2 entrances to this building. Keep in mind, the building it was something 100 or so years ago, maybe 200 years old. It used to be a prison. It used to be a hospital. And then it kind of just turned into an event center. It's actually the place where we got married. So there's 2 entrances to the building. There's the one entrance where it's, you got the stage where people will hold their event. And then there's a door on the right that you would enter that goes upstairs, and it leads to an open office area. And, maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 other rooms that, some people would hold classes in there. I think there was like a bathroom. There's like a dumbwaiter. And so, I went upstairs. They let me in. They had the keys. Keep that in mind. Her and her one coworker that were working the same event. They had the only keys. So I went upstairs into the office area. They went into the event area. Doors were locked. They started setting up whatever they needed to set up for whatever event was going on. I was upstairs. I think I was reading a book. Maybe I was working on something for a class I was taking. And all I remember is at some point, I hear the stairs. You hear very distinct, like a boot coming up the stairs. Boom, boom, boom. And you hear the creak because it's an old building. And I'm not really thinking anything of it. I'm thinking, oh, one of them are coming up here. I'm not putting it together that boots, they're not wearing boots. It sounds like a heavy step. And so, my brain's just kind of whatever about it. Oh, okay, so they're coming up. And then it just kind of stops, and they never came up. But I was like, maybe they went back down. Because I'm also preoccupied with what I'm doing. Anyways, later on that night, I randomly thought about it when we were driving home. And I asked my wife, I said, hey, did one of you guys come upstairs at some point? Like I heard someone walking up there and then nobody showed up and then they just went away. And she says, oh, you heard footsteps? And I'm like, yeah, I heard footsteps. Why? She's like, a lot of people hear footsteps in that building. Yeah, that place is really haunted. Sometimes people will see shadows, the lights will just turn on. And I was like, get the hell out of here. Seriously? And yeah, that was my first time where I'm like, you know what? That got me. I can't explain that one.
That's good. I wonder if it was one of those, like, thinking of trying to poke holes in stories. I wonder if it was one of those, is it called frogging, where people are living secretly in like houses and buildings?
So it's funny you mentioned that. That building specifically had one of those incidents.
No way.
I swear to God. She's worked that building. She frequently worked that building. There was a lot of events that would happen.
Right.
And one of the times when she was there, she's with, I think it was a group of other coworkers. And they're all sitting there thinking like, why does it sound like there's somebody here? I hear voices. What's going on?
Oh boy.
And, nobody could figure it out. They search all the rooms. Nobody's there. I hear these voices. So at some point, one of them opens up a closet that's downstairs right when you open the door. And they realize there's this panel that, comes out and you can crawl into the wall.
Oh no.
And so as they're pulling the thing out, they hear the voices and they're terrified. They're like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to see down here. Oh, so they pull the panel out and they start saying, is anybody here? And they hear the voices. It's mumbling to itself. They can't really make out what it's saying. And they say, if somebody's in here, you need to leave right now. We're calling the cops. And so slowly, this homeless lady, I don't remember if she said she was older, younger, homeless lady. Clearly, she's got some kind of, mental stuff going on.
Wow.
She's coming out. She's crawling out. She's got like food that she had with her. I think she had like a drink or something. And she's mumbling to herself. And she's like, you got to leave. We're going to call the cops. And that was, pretty creepy when she told me about that. I never thought you'd hear somebody in the walls.
Yeah.
So are you sure someone wasn't in the walls when you were there?
I think you saw heard a squatter.
It was a squatter, yeah.
I don't know because that happened before that event. So at that time they had been very careful about,
closed up the panel.
Anybody getting in.
Okay, so this is what it was. It was the ghost of a squatter.
It was a ghost of a squatter.
Ghost of a
The
squatter.
homeless lady died in there.
Yeah, maybe. We actually
back.
had another story at a Winco. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's like a warehouse store.
No.
So about 6 years ago, there was a Winco. You go outside to some stores and there's like pillars that are kind of the facade of the building.
Yep.
So the cops were chasing some guy. I think it was like a hit and run. Anyways, the guy ends up pulling up to the Winco. He gets out, runs into the store, goes upstairs into the employee area, onto the roof, and ends up falling inside the pillar. And the cops look, they're like, where the hell did this guy go? We don't see anything.
No.
They don't think to look inside the pillar. And keep in mind, this was in the middle of summer in California. It was 110 plus degrees.
You're cooked.
So a couple days go by, and people start noticing, hey, why is that pillar out in the front leaking? Why does it smell like sewage?
Oh.
And, enough people start complaining. They start investigating. They're like, oh, my God, the guy died in here. And that's his body. His body baked in here for like a week.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, that one freaked
So
me out, too.
Alice in Chains could write the song "The Man in the Pillar."
Oh, dude, tell me about it.
Just remake it. You can do that, Bertman, yourself. The Man in the Pillar.
That's
a crazy story.
Well, I love that one. I used to go by the pillar all the time and just be like, that's where it happened.
You should go back and like put a little plaque there. People should know about the pillar, what happened.
You got to remember the pillar, man.
Never forget
Thanks,
the pillar.
Bertman.
Thanks, dude. That was crazy.
Thank you,
Get me
guys.
out of here. Bye.
I didn't expect to like smell a lot from that story.
I know.
I smelled the pillar.
I vomited and
Did you?
then swallowed it.
Well, that's good. Hey, we made it through the show with, I think, minimal gremlins.
I think we did great.
As far as I know. That was awesome. That was fun. Thank you to all the callers. Thank you to Jose. Thank you to Bert. Check out Man of Bert on all the social media platforms. See him yelling at people. You can find me at Shane Cashman on all those places. Where can they find you?
I am Alex Ayala on X. I'm not yelling at anyone yet, but I might soon. So
you're not going to be here for a little bit.
I won't be here for the next 4 shows.
We're gonna miss you. It's gonna be a
So
little bit,
it's gonna be sad. I'll be, on standby to,
but
talk
we'll
the
have
gremlins
we'll
out
have
of the
someone
room.
standing in the meantime that may or may not be a
Don't
ghost.
miss me too much out there.
Well, thank you all for tuning in.
Tell them about super chats and
Yeah,
everything else.
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Super chats. Thank you for those. And also, if you want to send me stories, Shane Cashman at scanner.com. So that's my name at scnr.com. I'm going through everyone's submissions and love to have you guys on. So hit me up with your stories there and we'll talk. And until next week, we'll see you.